I've been very independent with the projects, and I initially kind of planned to continue that and be very focused on continuing projects that I've already done and further myself. But as the year went on, I feel like I kind of played the Gibsonet game a little bit more, and I started focusing more on stuff that I hadn't done before. I started thinking more about D labs, C labs, and my internship, and just stuff that it wasn't like super personal to me that I started. So there's not as many independent projects. The main thing that I focused on this year was my internship, which I'll talk about first. So my internship was with Matt Hansen, who works at Apple as a software developer. And so the initial idea was to create an app that would solve some sort of problem that students have in schools. So something common that you can just create an app or a tech solution for that can help students with whatever that problem is and find a solution for it and make their educational lives easier. And so I worked with a team of other Gibsonet students, Kyan is one of them, and there's Daniel. And so I worked with them to create this app, which didn't end up actually being an app. We decided to switch over to a website. I already talked about this, pretty much everything I already covered in my last exhibition with the Hula website. Basically, we created like this site for Matt's company that he wanted to start, which was basically like it's like for him to do what he did with us for students in the future with other teams. So we were kind of the starting team, and I created the logos for it. So originally we were just called ISD 360, which wasn't going to be our final name. It was kind of just a placeholder. So I created this logo just in a basic photo editing software. And then I created, once we came up with the Hula name, which is kind of like what goes around comes around, or if you help your school or help your community, that comes back towards you. So I created this Hula logo, and then we created the website. I created sort of these prototypes just in the editing software, which is kind of similar to what we would do later on with the actual website, where we just created like these mini sort of visual prototypes that would then be developed into the final website later on. And then that's where I kind of started using CSS, which is basically like the visuals of the website, stuff like fonts and placement and stuff like that. So this is kind of the difference between when it originally was just kind of basic fonts and stuff, and then I kind of adapted it into this more stylized font. I changed the colors because I felt like the original kind of blended too much into the background. So I added the outline and changed the colors, and I think that looked a lot better. But the main thing, I disconnected from the internet for some reason.
Take your time.
But the main thing we worked on was this thing called Extra Credit, which it was originally kind of a joke name because we were basing it off of Reddit, and then we called it Extra Credit. And I think it was originally supposed to be like a joke name, but then it kind of just became our actual name because we came up with Extra Credit with 2 D's in the credit, so it's like credit, like Reddit. We thought that was too like on the nose though, so we just went with it.
I think you should bring it back personally.
I think so
yeah.
too. I think so too.
No?
We just didn't want it to be like
Like
too
or
obvious.
something.
Or like,
That's part
If
of
it was
marketing.
just credit and there was 2
Make it-
D's, but like with the extra credit, it's like,
And make the R capital.
yeah. I don't know. I think you should go back and workshop it with your end users and see what they think. All right, fine.
So when starting the project, we kind of had to work together with Matt because he kind of had his own idea. I think he wanted to get started a bit quicker, but we kind of had to reassure him that we had to go into this as like a Gibsonet project. And so we really focused on empathy. And so first thing we kind of did was we all got together as a team and sort of wrote down ideas for like common issues we had. at schools, not just at Gibson Neck, because that was definitely a major thing, was the fact that we're at such a different school,
Mhm.
and so it's not going to be like, for us, it's going to be different from how it is for other students. So we kind of had to really think about like common issues that isn't just at Gibson Neck, but also at other schools too. And so we came up with ideas for empathy, surveys, setting up a table, asking around for other students, and just creating like lists of different problems that are common with schools. And we did end up releasing a survey out to the whole school where we just asked like, what are the common issues you face on a daily basis at school? And so we got a lot of responses. We really did want to reach out to other schools that aren't like Gibson Neck throughout the Issaquah school district, but the different principals and stuff did want us releasing our surveys out there, which I guess is understandable.
We've had that problem before. I don't get it. Can I interrupt with a question? You said something interesting that Matt, you kind of had to like force Matt to like take a step back and like do the Gibson Neck process a little bit. I was visiting John's internship at PACCAR, and I was surprised to see like the design thinking model like was on the wall, like big display, right? And so that's something that they like use in their process at PACCAR. And I have to assume that like in Matt's work, like it's iterative.
Yeah.
What was the difference between what he must do in an iterative, like what system like did you see him using that's like similar to design thinking? Like it's a little funny to me that you had to like sort of like be like, hold on, Matt, we got to figure out who our end users are, you know?
It wasn't exactly like that. It was
Yeah.
just more so like the asking around part, because with Gibson Neck it's a lot more, I don't know, on the ground, I guess. For him, it's a lot more professionally done. Whereas at Gibson Neck, especially in that school setting, which is what the type of solution you want to create, you do have to kind of ask around in person, which I don't think he fully understood, because he didn't really want to get started quickly.
Yeah. What's your thought?
I will say that I think that a lot of times, especially when you get into the professional world, that you start focusing in on a certain thing and stop thinking big picture. It's not a good thing. That can take you down to very limiting yourself. But I think what I love about this program is that it's always about keeping it big picture. But I can see how that could happen. Even with very intelligent, very smart, that can happen.
The only other layer that I want to add to that is like, you have a team because different people have different like strengths.
Oh, yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so like, I'm hearing you maybe say, not to oversimplify, but maybe like he's about the data, or he's about the quantitative, like maybe that's just his lens or something like that. When what you're doing, when you're like asking like kind of open-ended questions of like actual high school kids, that's very qualitative data. And so some people are like just better at that, or more, or like recognize the value in that. So that's why like a team, you know? So I'm hearing you say, yeah, they do iteration, and he empathizes maybe in his own way. Like he's got his data sets, or he knows, like he thinks he knows what the problem is. And you guys just explored it from a little bit of a different angle, which I think is pretty cool. So.
I don't know, I might be jumping ahead a little bit.
No.
But I think Travis, I don't know if you agree with this, but Travis might have a process that's more closer to the design thinking.
Yeah.
And okay, awesome, thank you.
I think that's a little later when we talk about
Yeah.
later, but our idea was that we settled on a website that was going to help people find educational resources. So it was going to be where students could share out their own resources for other students to find, and that would kind of be the whole idea, where you help your school, and then it helps you because you're sharing out your ideas, you're getting ideas from other people, or resources. And so I thought that was definitely the best project we could have gone with, because not only that, but I feel like in the future, it's going to be something that we use, but also it's going to look really good on resumes and for college. So that was definitely like our the idea that we all kind of agreed would be the best, even though there were probably other ideas that we had which would have been much simpler to implement, but we decided to go with this. And so then we created kind of this defined document where we kind of just had our ideas here, and then we kind of talked with Matt, and then we were really just trying to figure out exactly what it is we wanted to do. So we have this sort of more of a defined paragraph where we just talk about a bunch of the ideas we had for the project and how it was going to help people. And then we kind of compacted that down into a defined statement, which I have right here. How can my team and I design a website that helps students find resources outside of what teachers provided in order to improve studying efficiency and understanding? One of the major things that we had to kind of get around was having a defined statement that didn't like sound like we were demeaning teachers or anything, because we didn't want to make it seem like, oh, you can't do your job. So we had to kind of say it in a way where it's like teachers can't do everything. Like sometimes it falls upon the student to do their own studying, and so with a website like this, that could really help them outside of just what's in the class.
I think you struck a good balance of like teachers are like limited and they're not going to provide everything, and so like here's this other stuff that So I think you've done that.
And then that's kind of when Travis, who's a UX designer, came in. He introduced us to Miro, which was much more like what Kyan said, which was much more like the design thinking process. We created this board. Can't really see it because it's kind of small in here, but we had a bunch of different kind of panels where we would just put down notes and ideas we had for each thing. So finding our users, our problem, next steps, and just general ideas we had for the website. And so that was definitely very helpful in just getting it down to the essentials of what we needed just for the website and like a first prototype, because obviously you can add a bunch of other stuff later, but this board kind of helped us really define what was like our most needed things to help the most amount of people. And then we also use Miro to create these light prototypes. There's a bunch of them. Some of them I created. I think I focused mostly on the home page, and then some of them were Daniel, some of them were Kyan, and then I think a few of them we worked together on. And so these top ones up here are kind of just all the random creations we had just to get our ideas down, and then these bottom ones are the ones that we actually ended up using as sort of the basis for later on when we created the Figma prototypes. So once we felt like we were in a good spot with Miro, we kind of moved over to Figma, which was a lot more in-depth with the website. It was more functional. You could preview it and see how the website would actually look to viewers. And so at the start, we kind of created pretty similar looks to how it was in Miro. I don't know why this resource is missing and the see more buttons are like off center, but I don't know. That's just how it was in Figma when I found them. And then this was kind of our idea for the main filtering or searching page where you would see all of the resources. And then we developed it a lot more. So my kind of place in this was creating a theme for the website. So it was a bit less generic and just white. And so I kind of initially had the idea of blue, just kind of blue and white. I also created the extra credit logo, which I actually kind of subconsciously plagiarized the ESPN logo, the ESPN Plus logo, so I think I need to change it, so we don't get in trouble.
Not if you have two Ds.
Yeah, and then we got advice. I think it was from Victoria that the design was too bright. Like when you look at it, it was just like too many bright colors, I guess. So we created a few different themes, which kind of tackled the problem. We created a dark mode version, which I didn't really like this one specifically because I didn't really like how the blue matched up with the black. So we ended up creating a dark mode version for later down the road when we were able to switch from light and dark. and I think that one looks a lot better. Then we just created a few other ones, and we all settled that purple looked the best, and so that's kind of the one we went with going forward.
So I love that. One of the things that I will just call out is that you're right, that some of the earlier ones would be difficult for people with like eye problem, right? Like it would be difficult for them to see. And I think that you're naturally going through that and seeing that. Sorry, guys, my voice is terrible right now. But there are also tools to see that, accessibility tools.
Yeah, and that's also something we brought up a lot was accessibility.
Yep.
So we haven't really implemented it yet, but I think it's definitely something we should think about going forward. And so these are kind of the final, I guess, prototypes we had in Figma, and it pretty much looks the exact same now. I don't think there's too many major changes besides just like placeholder stuff being different. So after we felt like we were in a good spot with Figma, we started building the website. This was where things got a little complicated with Matt. He wasn't as available as he used to be, and so initially we kind of had Travis. So Matt basically gave us like his idea of like how we could move forward, especially since at that time we also had Christopher as one of our members, and at that same time he decided to pursue a different internship. So we kind of had to like separate into these specific roles, and my role was to do the was to basically export what we had in Figma using a plugin and adapt that into the actual website code. And that was very strenuous because we exported all of the Figma pages as one page, and so I had to go through each page and separate it out into their actual own separate pages. It's kind of confusing to say, but it took a very long time, and then also the exported stuff with Figma, like the buttons and stuff, were pretty much all broken, and so I had to kind of go through, fix those. There was also like formatting issues. There were like white bars at the side of everything, and so I had to fix all that and just make it a full website again. And then in the background, Kyan and Daniel were kind of doing more back-end stuff, and eventually we had to kind of merge the two, which I don't think it was as bad as we thought it would be initially, but eventually, once we realized there were stuff we had to do differently, we realized, oh wow, there are actually a lot of problems here that we have to fix. But thankfully, I think we're in a better spot now.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
Would there, if you could go back in time, would there have a different approach you would have taken, or like is this just the muck you would have to get through to accomplish the task?
I don't know. Maybe
What do you think, Daniel?
there were ways to export each page separately, so that's probably the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then also, this happened anyways, but I think we were worried about like the components not transferring over, but in the final website, it still didn't transfer each component over, so when we changed the header, it only changed on one page, and so we eventually had to compact it all down anyway so that things changed when they were supposed to across all the pages. So yeah, I don't know specifically, but I don't know if you two had ideas for what you have done differently.
I've made a very intentional decision to not work on the front end.
I got sick of the back end, so now I'm working on more of the front end.
That's the other nice thing about working with a team of people, because a lot of times you can get stuck and it can get hard, and maybe people have the energy at the right time to work on something that somebody else has lost the energy to do, so that's cool.
Like, I think there were a lot of tools that everybody was saying that we should use that we didn't know how to use, and they were like, just figure it out later.
Yeah,
And we're
and
figuring it out.
we should have changed how we did our branching and Git.
I was actually talking with my dad. The way we're doing it is pretty normal.
Oh, okay, well.
Like, it's not
Should-
super abnormal, but whatever.
Then at the very last minute, we changed it to our capstone. So I think we all had our own sort of ideas of what our capstones were gonna be, but then at kind of the last moment, we decided to change this project to our capstone. And I think it was a good idea, because in the long run, it means probably less, I don't know, thinking about what we have to do each separately for our own capstone, and we kind of just can work as a team on this thing that we've already been working on for so long. The only thing I was kind of paranoid about is just because we haven't treated this like a capstone the whole year, but thankfully I think it's close enough to where I think we were kind of easily able to just adapt it to a capstone, so.
And my suggestion to Brayden, when we talked about this recently, was, one thing that the capstone process requires is 15 sources early on and stuff like that, right? Which is a little bit different, but any project like this is so iterative, right? That at some point you're gonna have an opportunity to go back and do more research and find more, find more experts, right? And I don't think any of your advisors is gonna be worried that you didn't do it in a particular order or something like that, right? So. And the other thing I want to say for kind of anybody in the room who's listening, Casey's really stoked about the idea of group capstones. The wrong kid's doing a group capstone. It could be a way to not do your part. But at least in terms of the three of you, right? This idea of because capstones are hard, and then we send out people to do them individually, by themselves, and in a little bit of a silo, and people can get stuck, and they can get lost, and they can get bogged down. Anyway, so we're really excited to kind of see how this goes. So you guys are a little pilot. We're gonna try it with you guys, and then Casey's probably gonna have a whole bunch of other students have internship-based group capstones in the future. Especially when we're trying to put a real product out into the world or really make a difference in the community. It's really hard for somebody to do that by themselves. So.
No, I agree. When you first said that, I was like, ooh, are you sure? But I think I agree with everything that you've just said. If you guys can do it and make it right and actually put something out there, I think I'm all for it. I also just want to make sure that I don't think that you're gonna have a problem with this, but I just want to make sure that it's an actual contribution. And that's kind of like starting up a company, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's anything that you go into business with. So yeah, no, happy to see that and would love to see that.
So in creating the capstone document, it was kind of easy just to go back to everything we've already done and just kind of put that into the capstone process. The thing that Colin says is that because I took the capstone C-Lab, he said that we have to make sure that each of our documents are kind of tailor-made for us. So our vision and stuff, we have to talk about it in a way that pertains to us and what we contributed to the overall project. And that was pretty easy. We were able to create pretty simple just descriptions of what we've pretty much already done so far. And so, yeah, I'm pretty happy with what we've done. Gonna go on to independent projects, like I said, and it broke again. Like I said, I didn't do too many independent, or I didn't focus too much on independent projects this year. So, mostly for the first half of the year is where this stuff was the most major, I guess. So the first thing is my time travel video game. This was kind of the major project that I wanted to get started on this year to further my game development ideas, because that's kind of the main thing that I want to do going forward. It's part of the reason why I took the internship, because even though it's obviously not the same thing, I feel like working as part of a team, and obviously the coding parts of it would be pretty similar in the business aspect of it, and so that's definitely something that I want to get experience with before starting this. So this time travel game, I have bigger aspirations for other games later, but this was just kind of something with a simple premise that I feel like I could create just as a way to get into it and to put my name out there and put something out into the world, just to grasp how people respond to it or how good I am as a starting base. So the first thing I kind of did was I got this program called it's called Milanote, and it's basically this super helpful like visual brainstorming site where you can just go through anything. There's game flow, where you're just able to find or not find, but just find out what your what the flow of the game is, and the basic ideas behind it. You're able to brainstorm just ideas. This is a big page where I just have a bunch of my different ideas for the story, the mechanics, different puzzles, and everything that you can do in the game. So this was a super helpful website just to get my ideas somewhere. And then I started developing a demo for the game just this year in February, and I wanted to finish it in time for the design fair, which was in the middle of March. So I had to develop the whole game in about a month and a half, and it wasn't as difficult as I thought it would be. I think a major part of it is because I use Unreal Engine 5, which has a lot of like mechanics and stuff that are able to help you just get started quicker, and so that was super helpful. So the first thing I kind of worked on was the environment of the game, just kind of mapping out where I wanted things to be, just getting a sense for the space that you'll be in. So the main idea of the game is that it's a puzzle game where you have a player in the future and a player in the past, and they have to work together in the same place, but at different times to solve puzzles and stuff like that and get out of this prison. And so the main mechanic is like there's causality, so what the player in the past does will affect the player in the future. And I thought that was a really cool idea that people hadn't done before, and I wanted to add a lot of atmosphere to it. I don't want it to exactly be a horror game, but you can definitely tell by how the visuals look that there is a bit of eeriness to it, and I thought that was something that would really be helpful in immersing people into the game. And then that's when I started filling out kind of the areas with props and stuff. A lot of these 3D models I got off of the Unreal Engine Marketplace or just off of online. And you know, it's kind of basic at the moment, but I do like how it looks right now. And yeah, I think I've maybe focused a bit too much on the look of it because I ended up doing that first and like spending probably like half a month just on that, and so I didn't have as much time to polish the mechanics as I would have liked, but it looks good at least. But it didn't really matter for the design fair because I had to make the graphics. I had to lower the graphics or else my laptop would have exploded. And so that's when I started working on the mechanics of the game. So there's this keypad. I can actually just show you. So these are the two different clients. Well, there's a client and a server. It's very complicated. I don't really quite understand how it works, but yeah, it's going to be kind of laggy. But you can kind of see the graphics aren't that good. But so there's this area you can go, and then to separate the kind of atmospheres of it, I kind of made this side have a bit different color grading. So none of the actual props or anything are like different colors. It's just like the atmosphere. And then, so this is the future version on the right, and then the one on the left is the one in the past. And so you can walk around, you can pick up this chair, and if I go here, if I pick up this chair, throw it somewhere, and then I go into future, and then I look away, and I look back, it'll be gone, and it'll be in a different spot. I thought that was pretty cool. It was very not fun to code though. And then there's this code. I'll kind of try to go through this. So there's this keypad. So if you saw the code written on the wall, there's a keypad that you have to input the code into, but in the future it doesn't work anymore. So in the past, you have to, so the main idea of the game is communication, so you have to communicate with the other player. So the person in the future has to communicate and say, hey, this is the code. So the person in the past can input the code. And that will allow the door to be opened. It's very slow, it's laggy. And then, so basically, what you do from here is that on here you can actually open the panel, and then you have these wires that you have to connect. In the past, you can do that. You can see what the wires are. Right now, I haven't updated the graphics or anything, so they're just like white lines. And then you have to input the same thing into this here. And then, I forgot what it's called. There's that. And then it'll work. So, we should be able to open the door now. And yeah, that's like the first puzzle of the game. It's very basic. But it was just like a test of like what the game could be like. And so, yeah, I'm pretty happy with where it's at now. I want to, the initial idea was to get a prototype out by the end of the year. I don't know if I'll be able to do that, but that's definitely the goal. And yeah, I got it done in time for the design fair, and so it was pretty cool to show that off to people, and hopefully I'll be able to get a playable version out sometime soon. And then, quick YouTube channel update. For anyone who doesn't know, I have a YouTube channel where I talk about Mortal Kombat. Yeah, and then this year I kind of made a shift in my content. I wanted it to be a bit more professional-ish. Like I wanted to spend more time on each video, and I wanted to go more in depth with the scripts because as time went on, my scripts weren't as in depth. It was kind of just like lines of random things that I knew I had to say, and then I would kind of ad-lib it for pretty much the rest of it. But I wanted to get it a bit more focused and organized. I have this program called Notion, which works as a calendar for everything that I'm going to do going forward with the channel. It's been super helpful, and just being able to be more disciplined and know when to get videos out on time. And I also updated my thumbnails. I think they look better now. I really like this bottom left one.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one got a lot of views, so I assume I did something right there. So yeah, I mainly focus more on like retrospective and reviews, and I don't really do much of the just random thrown out videos just to do something, or videos that are just like, I don't know, for fun. I mainly want the main entertaining aspect of my videos to not be like just the randomness of it, but mostly just the intrigue into whatever I'm talking about.
I've seen a couple of your recent videos, and I know I see what you're saying. I don't know if you guys were in the room when like Anna was going off about Shakespeare during like her exhibition. Like somebody who like really knows something and can like reference a lot, you know. So it's very clear that like you know all of the media, you know the movies and the games, and you're referencing, you know what. I mean, you really must be kind of an expert in the way that all the the timeline and what connects and what the fans responses were for each like element here, and like it's just really clear that you're drawing on like really deep knowledge about that, which is really cool, and I can see the difference between what you're describing, which is like, oh, I had an idea for a video and it was a little bit more gimmicky and a little bit more fun, and I mean that's cool too, but this is a little bit more like academic in its approach. Awesome.
I also started streaming. Well, I had streamed before. I think last summer was mainly when I was streaming a lot, but I started streaming again because it was really fun last time, so I thought I'd do it more consistently. So I stream every Saturday at the end of every month. So that it was really fun. The last one, I think, was like the day after my birthday or something. So I had a guest on, we talked, and it was just really fun. It was just kind of hanging out with the viewers, and I felt more connected. So yeah, I doing them in the future, and I do want to kind of turn my live streams into videos later on, so that people who weren't there can experience it as well. And then health and wellness. I go to boxing every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or at least I try to. And it's been really fun. I think I've been going for about a year now, or just over a year. And I really liked it. It's a place called Azteca, which I didn't know this when I first went there, but they actually have a really popular fighter there that I've seen a few times, and he's fighting for a world championship in August, and I'm gonna go. It's on this fight card, and I'm really excited to go see it, because the guy in the main event is the pound for pound #1 best fighter in the world, so I'm very excited. Something I have been wanting to do a lot more, especially recently, is sparring, and it's definitely the best learning experience when it comes to boxing, because you're just able to kind of figure out in the moment what you really need to work on and the kind of habits that you need to focus on trying to make more common, since you can practice, but if you're not able to actually do it, then it doesn't really matter. So I definitely want to spar more, at least once a week, but I don't want to get too much brain damage, because that would suck.
Just the right amount.
And so, by the way, we've been trying to actually get a schedule in place so that you can come watch him, or anybody could come watch him.
Take a van.
But it is literally oh, today, go ahead, you're gonna go spar. We need to get something on the books.
I can talk about D-Labs a little bit.
Okay, watch the time, 5 minutes, something.
Yeah.
We want to give you
So-
feedback.
I think this was the D-Lab I took right after my cycle 1 ended. This one is probably the most connected to my vision, because like I said earlier, a lot of the D-Labs and stuff I took were mostly new stuff for me. So this was communication by design. We kind of created these infographics, and we kind of learned about how visuals can influence people's reactions. So we learned about how the news can alter photos, and how they can use certain fonts or certain colors to influence people into buying a product or something like that, or believing a certain idea. And so the first thing I did, we were kind of creating these marketing infographics, and I created this one for The Zone, which is a boxing streaming service. It also has MMA as well. This is kind of the first one before we kind of learned anything about what we were actually going to learn about in the D-Lab. So this was kind of just as a basis of what we already knew. And then after that, we created one after we had already learned a lot more about the main idea of the D-Lab. So I think this one is a lot better, and does a lot better of a job showing people the idea of the streaming service and the accomplishments and how many people use it and how good it is. And then we also created a trailer for the Nintendo Switch as this marketing thing. I don't think I'll have time to show it, but it was pretty fun. I don't know, maybe I can put it in the chat or something. And then I'll be quick with these next two. Tales from the Crypt was this D-Lab where we basically went to the cemetery and we chose a person to learn about from the cemetery, to kind of learn history. So we had to pick someone that had died before 1900 or something like that. So we used that to kind of learn about that time period that they were in when they died. And so I picked someone named John Kramer, because John Kramer is the name of the main villain from Saw, and I thought that was funny. There was actually 2 people named John Kramer at the cemetery, but they were related, so it's not just completely random. And then we had to create an obituary for them, just kind of describing the events that happened in their life, what job they had, and everything that we could basically learn about them. And then, last one, I'll be quick, natural lifestyle. Going into this one, I was especially like kind of iffy on it because it pretty much had nothing to do with my vision, but I actually really enjoyed this one. It was science related. Basically, we looked at natural versus synthetic resources. And so the kind of idea I had was ink, or like pen, ink stuff you write with. And so I did a lot of research into what modern inks use and what inks from the past use. And the kind of idea I had for it, or not the idea I had, but the method I picked from the past that I wanted to try and replicate was carbon ink, where basically you burn something and then you get the carbon from that and then you turn it into ink. And so the way I did it, I didn't tell anyone because I felt like I was going to get in trouble, but I burned a metal spoon over a candle and then I put it into a container and I got a bunch of like this black dust of the carbon, and then I turned it into ink using this stuff called gum arabic and some water, just mashed it up and it became ink. I think I put too much water in there, so it's a bit like bit messy and thick, and it was a bit watery, kind of like watercolors. So if I did it again, I would probably put less water into it. And the very last thing, just after school stuff, after high school. I'm still not sure. I've looked at schools, nothing has really stood out to me. The only thing I really have is I do definitely think I want to go out of state, just because, I don't know, it's something that I've kind of always wanted to do, just like get out and be somewhere new and meet new people, especially recently. It's been something that I really wanted to try to do, and I think that would really help with my aspirations in the future, with online persona, stuff like that, and entertaining people. So definitely somewhere, I definitely want to go somewhere where I can just, I don't know, be in a new environment. And then next career I want to do is being an indie game developer, and I want to use my YouTube channel to kind of go along with that, leverage that, and just continue doing a lot of creative projects, and yeah, just do a lot of personal, fun stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. Tell us something you learned, ask a question, or give some feedback. Yeah, John?
I think I really, like, so many really awesome, amazing projects, and like the whole like making the website, and I don't know, we have a lot of cool stuff going on. People hear more about that, honestly. Especially that game, the content behind it was super awesome. I would actually love that to be released as a game. So very cool.
So I know you've been doing like coding and developing for a bit. This year specifically, what is like a major roadblock that you've had to push past to keep furthering your skills?
Creating that first game was definitely very hard. I feel like doing that alongside the internship was definitely helpful, because I was able to problem solve in the same ways that we were able to in the internship, and then kind of apply it to the game. But the game, obviously, there's a lot of different stuff. So it's not actually like typing coding. Unreal Engine uses blueprints, which are like, it's more so block coding, but it's still like just as difficult because there's a lot of blocks that you have to force to be able to do what you would think they would already be able to do. And it's very annoying, but I think I was able to get past that, and with a lot of trial and error, restarting over and over again, trying to do things more manually, but then doing more simple things, and then just doing it over and over again, I eventually was able to get it, which is basically what coding is all about. And so yeah, I'd say that's definitely the biggest roadblock, is just learning how to create more advanced games and make them work.
I know I haven't really seen a lot of the work that you've done in the past, but I think a lot of the stuff that you've done is really, really interesting. interesting. I think your passions are sort of shining through, but I think you're still, like, I'm just going with what I've seen, but you're still at like a point where you're not really sure what you really want to dive into. Like, you like this thing, you like this thing, you like this thing, they're all pretty cool. I'm kind of doing them all. I think that's totally fine. I think exploring your interest is something that's absolutely worth doing. I think we can also, Kyan and I can absolutely help you, because every single developer ever has considered making a game and thought about it and has looked into it. So if you're struggling with specific problems, we can absolutely try and help. Because I know, from what I've heard, it sounds like you have a lot of interesting ideas, but doing the specific, like handling the minutia of dealing with how the code should be structured is sort of where you're struggling with. I think I can absolutely help you with that. I've done a lot of really weird stuff with computers, but I think a lot of the work that you're doing is really, really cool. I think just a lot of really cool stuff, and I think you don't talk about it enough, and I think you really should. Just people can help.
I enjoy working with you and with Capstone, so it's great to see the other things you've been working on. The time travel mechanic sounds like a real pain in the ass. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm sorry I didn't export the pages individually. I didn't know that was like that took so much time to. Anyway, but like I like your presentation. I think you're really trying to explore your interests and see where you're going.
I mean, I feel like I've talked a lot, but one thing I'm gonna say is if you leave us, you know you're gonna have to learn how to like do your own laundry, and like dishes just don't disappear. Like they have to get cleaned. I don't want you to leave us, but I know that you're gonna be amazing, and you're gonna have to at some point. And you're gonna be amazing, and I can't even explain how proud I am of you. You're amazing, and you are gonna figure out how to do the dishes, and you are gonna figure out how to do your laundry, and you are gonna figure out, but more than that, you're gonna be better than your dad or I have ever been. You're just an amazing, amazing individual, and I'm so proud of you. I love you.
So,
Yeah, top that.
Top that one, yeah.
so with everything you've seen here, you're probably thinking, oh, you probably got all that from Dad.
What?
But all this stuff that you're doing on your own. I mean, obviously, we drive you to boxing, right? We help you with this and that. But I want to know from you where Mom and Dad can help even more, right? Both of us have a lot of
He
experience.
just talked it.
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
I mean, we have a lot of experience. Like when you guys were talking about doing surveys, like I do that all day long. I talk to our customers and our partners all day long.
And I'll talk to you about the legal stuff that happens with that.
So,
but
I want to make sure that when you get home and you start doing this work, or when you get to school and you do this work, that you know you have two parents who can help with all of this, you know? So leverage our brains, right? You know, just as much as you leverage your classmates, you could probably help just as much, right? For some of the questions you have around, you know, again, doing studies, doing evaluations, like that's half of my job. Right? So if you have questions, whatever it is, you know, whether it's more money, if you need something for your studio, right? If you need to throw something off of us, if you want to go take a class outside of school, use us as resources. That's why we're here. And that's the thing about you is I think you want to do things on your own, right? You want to accomplish. And the fact that, you know, I hear people here saying, this is great stuff, but I don't know what you're doing. Like, I would love to test your game, or I would love to learn more about your game. Tells me that you're not sharing it with them up front, you know. You've got so much great stuff here that feedback, good or bad, is the best gift you can get. Feedback. So, you may not love it, right? But feedback is a gift. So, use that, whether it's mom or dad or your classmates, your teachers. Okay, don't try to do this in your own silo. And I know you're not, but I think you could explore a little bit more. But other than that, I'm, like your mom said, couldn't be prouder. I do want to, we do need to do that after high school thing now. It's nonstop mail, nonstop emails, all these schools I've never even heard of before. But we need to get to a point where you need to start to
Narrow it down.
isolate, right? And if it's not within
Well, I think
Washington,
that's a
fine,
lot
but
of the
we'll support
things
you.
that, like, I think that I want you to really focus on. And here's the thing, you don't have to have, I did not know what I wanted to be when I graduated high school. I thought I wanted to be a nurse. And by the way, I'd make an excellent nurse, but clearly didn't go that decision. I think what I found out that I loved is I loved helping people. And so what I found out is that in every job that I do, I know that I'm trying to help people. It doesn't always translate to what you think it's going to translate to. And I don't want you to think that after high school,
No, I'm so sorry.
I don't want you to think that you have to have the perfect, like, oh, here's what I'm gonna do for the rest. You don't. You're gonna grow. You're gonna learn. You're gonna figure out what it is. Sorry.
No, not at all.
Done.
That makes me think of one of the first things that you said, which I think is true for you. Like, besides the other, like, hobbies and interests, like, you like to entertain people, you like, you know, and that's part of it. And maybe that happens in a YouTube channel, but maybe you find that happens in a little bit way that you don't expect, which is the way that I would add to what you're saying, which I totally agree with. My final piece of input, it's really important to me that at Gibson Eck, we're not just like pretending that this is like a way that school can be better or different, right? And I know that everybody's on their own journey and sometimes it takes a while. I really appreciate that you kind of take me at my word. I ask you to like set out at the beginning of the year, the plan as best you can, what you want to accomplish. And then you actually go engage in, oh no, my computer's gonna die. You engage in your new learning. And then you revisit your plan at the end and kind of like think about where I've been and like how that changes my plan for the future. I really, really appreciate that. And I think that when I look at your work and I point to what you do, I can be like, this is the promise of Gibson Eck working the way that like we hope it can and intend. Thank you for the example that you set for other students. I think one of the biggest growth areas for you this year that I saw, you talked about taking feedback, like good and bad, hard and easy. Like I saw Matt give you some pretty brutal feedback once. I was like, damn, that's hard, you know? And it was about sort of like how you're engaging with the, with the team on this project early on. And even though like it wouldn't have been the way that I would have given you that feedback, right? I saw you take that feedback and I saw you respond really positively to that. And I think that, your teamwork, I don't want to put you on the spot. My guess is that at some point you saw a change in Brayden's like capacity to like engage as a full team member in the internship. Maybe not. Anyway, so that's what I saw, and that's taking feedback that was probably well intended, but maybe just the delivery wasn't amazing. So super proud of you for that. All right, I don't know. Any other final thoughts? Yes? Oh, un aplauso, aplauso. Thank you so much. We're going to transition pretty quickly to John's exhibition.